What's up, everybody? I hope y'all are having a wonderful day. My name's Anthony, and on today's episode we are going to talk about the several reasons why you need to be growing, or at least eating, cayenne peppers. Now, before I get started, I want to go ahead and mention, yes, I understand there's a lot of people out there who do not like spicy food. For some people, just black peppercorns are considered spicy. However, there are many reasons why you need to be considering, or at least know this information, so please stick around to the end, even if you aren't a fan of spicy foods. Now, in this video, we're going to discuss 4 things. First, what is a cayenne pepper? Second, how do I grow it? Third, what are the potential medicinal benefits of it? And fourth and final, how do I use it? And at the end, I'm going to show you a little bonus on how to actually make cayenne powder. But first things first, what exactly is the cayenne pepper? It's just like any other pepper that you come across, except it's just a little bit hotter. So on the scale of, from nothing to really, really hot, you got a bell pepper at the bottom, jalapeno kind of in the middle, cayenne pepper, and then your scorpion, habanero, Carolina Reaper, the fancy peppers. So it is actually high up on there on the Scoville scale. The Scoville scale is the heat intensity of any kind of pepper. Now, this pepper was, they call it from French Guiana because that's where the town Cayenne is actually from. So they named it after that, but it's probably from somewhere in Central America and South America, and it is a perennial. When I say it's a perennial, that means in that area, in the tropical climate, it can live multiple seasons. So if we treat it like an annual here in the United States, because most of these places in the United States get a frost, but if you live in somewhere like Southern California or Florida, you might be able to get away with planting this for several seasons because it will survive that as long as there's no frost. All right, now how to grow a cayenne pepper plant. It's actually really, really easy. When it comes down to your soil, you're going to want to make sure you have a slightly acidic, kind of neutral soil from about 6.5 to 7 on the pH scale. But I never really paid too much attention to that because the soil around here is usually pretty acidic anyway, so I add a lot of compost to it anyway. But one thing you're going to definitely want to make sure you're paying attention to is the nutrient requirements of this plant. When I say nutrient requirements, you're going to want to make sure you're adding phosphorus. So things like wood ash will be your friend. This plant needs phosphorus because if it doesn't have phosphorus, you're not going to get them fruits. If you have too much nitrogen, you're going to get all leaves and no fruit, and you don't want that. You want to make sure you're getting as much fruits as possible, so being heavy on phosphorus is a good thing. You also want to make sure you're not forgetting your potassium, because this plant likes it hot in the heat, and when it's hot outside, water is very crucial. So having a good potassium in the soil is just going to make sure that you're getting that water from the roots up into the plant. Now, 2 more things I wanted to add here is you're going to want to make sure that you are adding calcium. Calcium is very important to nightshades because if you don't give enough calcium in the soil, you're going to have what's called blossom end rot. I did a whole video on that. I will put a link to that down in the description below. And the second thing you're going to want to make sure you're adding is sulfur. Sulfur is what's going to make these plants as spicy as they can be. Now, there's some people out there who walk around happy knowing that their peppers are a lot spicier than other people's. This guy. And the way I do that is I like to break a couple matchsticks off and put it in the hole before I put the seed or transplant. Now, when it comes down to planting these, I like to do transplants just because I like to put the seeds down at about end of February and transplant them in the garden right the first week of April. That way they got a really good boost before the hardcore heat of South Carolina summers kicks in around June. As you can tell, it's mid-July and this plant is absolutely loaded with cayenne peppers. How you know you're ready to pick them is the plant is going to go from a nice green, you have a green pepper, it's going to start having this milky look to it where it goes green to red, kind of purplish, and then when it's ready, it will be completely red and have a nice waxy look to it. You want to go ahead and cut it off at that point. And one more thing I wanted to add, whenever you're planting any kind of cayenne pepper or pepper in general, I like to add a cage to it. So I use like a standard tomato cage, knowing that they're not going to really outgrow that. But especially in my climate, we do get these random storms that come through and they can be very violent at times. So when they are violent, I want to make sure that my plant's not going to fold over. So I just add a cage to it, and it really likes the support because it likes to put out these nice little branches to hit the supports. So just a little thing I do to make my peppers grow better. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the potential medicinal benefits of this plant. Now, contrary to popular belief, a lot of people think of peppers and stuff as food first. Well, a lot of times, especially way back when, it was considered some sort of medicine. These have been studied throughout the centuries, and actually Cornell University and a few others have actually been doing a lot of testing on them to actually see these medicinal benefits, and some of them actually do hold true. The first and most obvious one, it is a metabolism booster. Basically, the biggest part is, have you ever eaten a hot pepper and all of a sudden like your heart starts pumping and you start getting hot? Well, that's a thermogenic effect. Thermogenic effect means obviously it's going to raise your body temperature, and in order for your body to raise body temperature, you're going to be burning more calories. So if you're burning more calories, you're probably increasing your metabolism. So it is a good temporary metabolism booster. The second thing is, it is considered a hunger suppressant. It has been found to counteract the hunger hormone ghrelin. It's one of those things I actually looked up how to write it down, which sends the hunger signals to the brain. So they did a test. I'll have to look at the source material, but they did a test on it, and they said people in a blind study had a 10% decrease in appetite when they were given powdered cayenne as a supplement. Now, another thing is that it also strengthens the stomach lining. I know that sounds counterproductive and counterintuitive, but when it comes to hot, spicy food, I have stomach issues myself, and there's a difference between GERD and actual ulcers. So one thing about spicy foods that they do is they make you salivate more, and when you salivate more, you're obviously having a whole bunch of pre-digestive enzymes forming in your mouth, which also help protect your stomach lining. So when it comes down to intestinal issues, having that more saliva will actually help you in the long run. It also has been shown to kill some forms of bacteria in your stomach lining that actually help prevent ulcers. So it's not going to be an end-all be-all, and it also has been proven some points to counteract the acid production. So it's something similar to Tums, but I know it just sounds kind of weird and hits the ear wrong. Wait a second, a spicy food helping my stomach lining? But hey, the studies prove it, and I'll put it down in the description below so you can see what I'm talking about. It's also been proven to boost your cardiovascular health by dilating the blood vessels. There is, a whole bunch of old wives' tales saying that people are in the middle of a heart attack. If you give them a hot pepper or a tincture made of cayenne, that has the possibility to open up those blood vessels and potentially help that person get to the hospital where they might have died before, because like I said, it does dilate those arteries, and it can help you move some lipids out from those arteries to help you survive just that much longer till you can get to actually professional help. Just keep that part in mind, that this kind of an old wives' tale hasn't really been proven yet, but it's just something I found in my research that it could actually be there. And finally, just 2 teaspoons of cayenne pepper is a very good source of vitamin A. For those of you who don't know what vitamin A is a protector of cell growth, and it also is very good for your immunoresponse. So when it comes down to fighting diseases and infections and whatnot, you're going to want to make sure your immune system is as strong as possible. So being able to add cayenne peppers or something like that to your diet can only help you. All right, now finally, how do I use it? Cayenne peppers are very hot, and they're not very meaty. So when it comes down to eating a meaty pepper for some sort of dish like you would find normally like a lot of Mexican cooking or South American cooking, you're probably going to want to use a bigger pepper like a poblano or a jalapeno. But you can use cayenne peppers in a lot of things. Just remember, a little bit goes a long way. So that's why if you are going to find it somewhere, you're probably going to find it in powdered form. Now I'm going to show you how to make powdered cayenne pepper here in a second, from the garden straight to the end point, so that way you can see how to do it yourself if you would like to. But I wanted to go ahead and mention in this video why there's a lot of cultures out there that use hot peppers a lot in their cooking. Now, there's evidence to suggest that they use a lot of these peppers to try to make their food either palatable, which means to make it taste good, or to make them safe to eat. Now, there's a lot of cultures out there who live in a very warm climate, and having any kind of foodborne bacteria growth is going to be very difficult to fight if you don't have refrigeration. So a lot of these cultures like to use a lot of spices to try to help inhibit bacterial growth. Now, Cornell University did a study back in 1998 where they checked to see if these spices and all this stuff actually made a difference in bacteria, and surprisingly enough, it did. Things like garlic, onion, allspice, and oregano actually were like almost 100% effective at killing a lot of foodborne bacteria. But hot peppers were about 75% effective at killing or inhibiting bacterial growth. So it's just one of those things I wanted to go ahead and mention in this video. If you wanted to consider the possibility of eating things that might have some growth, bacterial growth on there, being able to put in some cayenne peppers in the mix might actually be able to help you eat that without getting sick. So now I'm going to show y'all how I make cayenne powder. First things first, you got to go out to your plant and you got to pick all the absolutely ripe peppers, not the ones that are half green, but the absolutely ripe ones. So remember, a waxy red appearance. Alright, so now that we got a good amount of peppers, we're going to go inside and prepare them. Let's go. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you get inside is obviously wash your peppers, just to wash off any nasty things that might have been on there from flying around outside. And the second, the most important thing, in my opinion, you need to do is you need to get yourself some gloves, because we're going to be cutting into these peppers. Now, I don't know about y'all, but if you've ever cut into some hot peppers before and the residue's on your hands, you can try to wash it off, but you might not be successful the first try. So a quick rinse ain't going to cut it. So if you have, hey, all of a sudden you're cutting and like, my eye itches, or I got something flew up my nose, or I got to go to the bathroom, well, you're going to remember very quickly that you didn't wear gloves. So from experience, trust me, make sure if you're cutting hot peppers, wear gloves. All right, so before I go ahead and start doing anything, my wife thinks that I should take one of these and test to see just how hot it is. So let's go. That has got some heat to it. Oh God. Yep, that's got some heat to it. Wow, this is a really good batch. This is going to make some really good cayenne powder. When you're cutting your peppers, obviously you're going to want to have a very sharp knife and a spoon. I'm going to show you why, because you're going to cut the tip of the pepper off. You're going to cut it lengthwise. And then you're going to take your spoon and get all those seeds out of there. Now you can leave your seeds in if you want to, but some people say it makes their cayenne pepper powder bitter. So for me, I've always just taken the seeds out of it, and I haven't had an issue with it. It's still plenty hot, but if you want to leave your seeds in there, by all means, do that. Okay, so now that we've cut the stems and de-seeded our peppers, we can go ahead and put them in our dehydrator. You don't have to use a dehydrator. I'm just using it because it takes less time. So I've got them on the dehydrator tray. This is your standard Nesco Dehydrator, no big deal. But you put them in your dehydrator at about 135 until they are completely dry. I'm talking about, you don't want them to bend, you want them to crunch. You will see what I'm talking about here in a second. But once they are dry, then you'll be ready to go to the next step. But for now, we're going to go ahead and turn this on. It's probably going to take between 8 to 10 hours. And I highly suggest, if you are going to do this, you pick a room that you are not going to use so the smell doesn't start burning your eyes in the house. So if you're doing this in your normal kitchen, make sure you do it and then you leave the house for however extended period of time, because it's going to put out a smell and it's going to start burning your eyes. Fair warning. It's been about 10 hours and let's check and see our progress. Should be done. Yep. It just crumbles. Like I said, if you have any leftover seeds that you didn't get, they just fall right out at this point. So, perfect. That's exactly what we want. All we do is we get our mortar and pestle. You can use a coffee grinder, a spice grinder, whatever you have. I like using a mortar and pestle. Throw your peppers in. Alright, so when we got most of it done, we are going to use a little bit of a strainer to get out all of our big chunks to try again. And yes, this makes your nose run. So after you've sifted and put it back in your mortar and pestle quite a few times, it took me about 4 times to get to this point. I got the desired consistency that I wanted, the nice powder. Make sure that you are also using a paintbrush of some sort to help scrape the inside of that mortar and pestle. You don't want to waste any of your hard work because, I mean, let's be honest here. There's a whole bunch of peppers and I only got this much powder. So obviously I'm going to keep doing this as the harvest progresses, but you know, you definitely want to make sure that you're getting every little bit of your work that you can. These little mason jar things I got from Tractor Supply. I'm pretty sure you can get them online or wherever, but they are just a normal ball condiment jars. Nice and cute. They don't have like the inner thing to seal, so you can't obviously can with these, but you can definitely put your condiments in or your dried herbs and whatnot. That's what I use them for. But I'm going to go ahead and end the video now. If you learned something from this video, please do me a huge favor and give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and I'll catch you all in the next one, okay? Bye.